Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Are you seeing and hearing me? Yeah, I am a bit late. I do apologise. Listen, I just get absorbed in reading. I don't mean to, but I do. It's a pain in the arse. And then Tracy says it's 7:30, and I look, and it's 10 to 8, and I'm like, ah, I've got something on my screen. It's annoying, man. Anyway, how are you all doing? Still, there's loads and loads of things going on, and I just want to remind everybody, Friday is an important day, right? 4 barristers against me, and they're all on the attack, and they all want this kicked out, right? And the more I think about it, the more I think what a silly move, almost stupid, Sarah Pochin was. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, whether they're going to kick it out or not, right? We never know what the judges are going to do. But my opinion is Sarah Pochin has made the gravest mistake of all, really, because if she had just shut up and not said anything, it would have been very difficult at a trial because she has clean hands. Even though it's not an equity trial, it would have been very difficult to try and say to a pair of judges, you need to void the election and start again, right? But because of what she's done, and because she's basically on the attack with them, she's actually supporting corruption, because in the petition and in the evidence, she saw the witness statements from two lots of different witnesses for two different events. And because of what she's saying, she's actually drawn herself into a corrupt situation by even replying. What she should have done was sat back and said nothing, right? And that would have been very awkward to try and get a complete nullity, nullify the election and start again, in other words, do it all again. But now she's opened herself up for that. That's if it gets to the trial. And I've just been sitting here thinking about different things and reading through some of the law books. It's more about getting in the zone. I don't know if people understand what I mean by that. And it's possibly why I can't sleep the night before, because I'm always thinking about different elements. What you've got to try and do is switch off and just take what you've got to take to the court. Most of the work's already been done. Well, the majority of the work has already been done on it. Once it's in, it's in. And it has been in, and they've had did I tell you that they tried to change, one of them tried to change their skeleton argument after I put my skeleton argument in, and there will be an argument, so you can't do that. Just to make sure you're clear on that. In other words, once they all put their skeleton arguments into me, that was what they was told. I then reply in the skeleton argument of why I'm saying they're all wrong and I'm right. And then after they received my skeleton argument, one of them has tried to change their skeleton arguments, and I'm like, I ain't having that. Ecstasis zone. D2. Let's have a look. I'm English. Users SC. Gary. DD. Loads of coffee. I won't be having any coffee the night before, because I definitely won't sleep. But I would have loved to have had one of them mushroom coffees with the some funny stuff in it, and it gives you the ping. But I did actually genuinely like that, and one, it was quite refreshing, but two, it had a nice taste to it, and three, it had the desired effect of coffee without having the after effects of anything that's caffeinated, because it's actually not caffeinated. Just to let you know, we should have got some mushroom. Yeah, no, that's what I mean. But I have got the details of it, but I ain't gonna have time to get it in and do it all by Friday. and it's made with coconut milk, not coconut water, but coconut milk, which is really lovely. Evening, Juicy Lucy, everyone out there. So yeah, there is quite a bit going on. So the reason why I get completely absorbed is because I then just start reading into law, and then as you read through it, you don't realise how much you're actually reading. You go bing, 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 and you're just reading it all, and some of it, and then I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's a good bit if I put that in there in my skeleton argument, and then I go and check the skeleton argument, it's already in there. So I'm like, oh, that's good. I've never left that bit out. So there's quite a bit in there. But the problem is, because part of the problem is you can't print this. There's a particular thing that I've been looking at, and you can't print it. When I say you can't print it, when I send it to the printer, the pages come out blank, even though they're there, and it's something to do with it being a scanned document. It's not seeing it properly. So anyway, just thought I'd let you know. I'm going to go and check my paperwork in a couple of minutes. There are a bunch of ducks. Hiya, hope things are good stateside. Who's out there? Juicy and Lucy, we're just drinking coconut milk coffee. Yum, it's lush. No mushrooms though. Just normal coffee. Yeah, well, just to let you know that Amy come back to me because I sent her a message and said, what is that stuff? And she sent it to me so I can go on and buy it. But she was also really pleased how many people had contacted her and said they wanted to X or what, and was looking at her website and whatever. So she was pleased that we give her a shout out. So there you go. Sounds awesome. Juicy and Lucy, gonna try that. Good evening, all you amazing people. Is that John Golding? Fingers crossed, already crossed for Friday. Yep. It's a nightmare, isn't it? But we were sent in to do a job, and that's exactly what we're going to do. All I can do is try. You can't try. And again, the surest way to fail is not to try. So you can't go around telling people, do this, do that. We talk the talk and walk the walk, and that's exactly what we're doing. If they hadn't have done it to us, if they'd done it to someone else, I would have just said, well, get on with it. But they didn't. They did it to us. And they stole our money. They stole our election leaflets and dumped them. They stole, in effect, our votes. And being constitutionists, you can't allow that, to happen. I think I've got to lose a bit of weight again, It's still doing up, but it's church. I need to get my weight back off again so I can feel another fast coming on. Just wish we could be with you. We'll be in spirit and thought. I'll pop a light. I'll just say Kim. Right? Hello, Kim. Hello, Paul. I'll be down there by next week. I'll be working out. No doubt I'll be stressed for a week with having everything just lying about, working out where it's going to go. But yes, on my way to Devon. If you wish to send Daddy Dragon a personal donation for all his hard work, send it to. Thank you very much. Let us not forget, and don't forget, I've still got some other acting. Not much of it though. Can't even remember where it is. Where did I leave it? I don't know, but it's here somewhere. Greetings. Nicola Bliss, Body Mind Healing. The courtrooms are going to be filled with more people soon, and the ones with the wigs might be in different chairs in the dock. I agree with you entirely. Funny enough, I was thinking about that today. I know it's one of them things where people, you're sort of thinking, and I keep thinking, if these judges are going to prove that there's no way out for a ballot box, and there's no way out through the judiciary or the law, there ain't any other way. It's sort of going to make my mind up, to be honest. And what I mean by that is there's only one way you can do it then, and that's a full-scale militia. And I mean illegal, lawful militia. I mean people training and people taking back the counties or shires by shire and removing the British regime. There's a lot more of us than there is of them. And I do mean that. I mean, if you think about it, there's only 128,000 in total police officers in this country. There's less than 70,000 actual military. And people are getting the ump. So, bearing in mind, we was governed by consent. So that's what everyone's got to understand. We are governed by consent. And if we don't consent any longer to this bullshit, but you've got to have the right people that lead that. And there's a couple of areas that have got the right way to lead that. One's in Devon, or shortly, and the other one's Norfolk and Suffolk, and there's other areas up north. Let me have a look. D2, eat it a state of mind where you belong, self-connect to a collective initiative, well documented, just explaining. Juicy and Lucy. John at large, woohoo. What's going on there? Live, Graham, follow. Yeah, don't forget to follow me on Twitter as well. I'm not sure how many I've got on there. But there just does seem to be a lot going on. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today, which I'll have a look at in a couple of minutes. I think the husband of the person, Richard, the husband of the person who let me have a look at that. It's all right. Yeah, I don't know if it's the husband or not, of the lady who owned the Cortina. Well, the Cortina was absolutely superb. Right, the one I showed is the nuts. Good evening, Dee Dee and Patriot family. To watch catch up tonight. Back tomorrow evening. Our little troll is awake. Bless. What little trick? Right, hit the live button or the like button. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. So share as much as you can. Copy it and share it out. Right, and let's have a look and see if we're there yet. I'm not sure how many. Where can I see that? We're up to 59 likes so far. So let's see if we can get over 100. The little troll is still there. It does make me laugh, though. Let's see if I can. I'll just hit that one. I took that one out. Who's in there? Ray Edmonds. How you doing, son? See, we missed you, Ray. Where you been, Ray? I know he ain't been a very good place. So good evening, Patriots. Just lurking tonight. Please share and like. Smet 13. So have a look. Who else is out there? Grasshopper finally got a membership pack. I'm sure if I eat bread, it fucks my head up. I just had some bread. My brain is going a bit strange. English 54. I shouldn't eat bread at all. It does me in. Let's have a quick look. Yang and Yin. Thoughts on William Kite? What about William Kite? So Yang and Yin. I'm not sure who you are, Yang and Yin, but I have got opinions on William Kite, which I don't really want to express because I don't want it to come across that there is no one out there that I like. It is very rare to get people like me that are constitutionalist, right? I only talk about the Constitution. I'm not interested in the nonsense. You know, and the Bill of Rights, or the trilogy, which is the Declaration of Reasons, the Declaration of Rights, the Bill of Rights, the Act of Settlement, which was massively associated with the trilogy. That is all part of the Constitution of England. And for anyone, there's certain things that have been said. There's some things he says that are really bang on, and I don't disagree with at all. But it's almost as if. So let me just put it this way to people, right? If you've been a teacher all your life, you're getting a pension off of the system, and then you go around preaching things that are wrong. I tend not to like you very much. That's all I can say. It's a bit like John Hurst was a great fellow because he realised, right? And don't forget, John Hurst, all about freedom, all about this, all about that. And I'm not disparaging the guy at all. During lockdowns, he wouldn't travel, and he went and got the jab, and he died of a brain hemorrhage, right? So you're either a full believer in bodily autonomy and the common law and how it protects you, or you're not. Let me have a quick look before I go into my next bit. Is there anything going up there? I'm just checking them emails before I do anything else. Let's see if there's anything that's come up on there. There were some major things that come up today. Cool, she's nice. Who's that? Elizabeth Farrell. We ask. Oh, it's got 57,000 subscribers. Let me go back and see if there's any notifications. I am going to send this out because someone sent something out today, and I had a look at it and I said that ain't quite right. And the reason I said it weren't quite right, because I'll tell you what they sent out. This wasn't one of ours; it was someone else who sent it. But they sent this out, right? So I'm going to show you. This is where you got to be careful. It wasn't one of ours who sent this out, right? It was someone else who sent it out, and they said it's a quote from Peter Sutherland, father of globalism, which he is, right? From 2006, we must use migration to turn the English people into a minority in England. This will allow us to undermine the identity of the native English and import a new majority that will end the very idea of England. This is critical for globalism to take hold of England. Now, I haven't seen that quote anywhere. I've searched for that quote and I can't find it anywhere. But this is what I'm trying to say to you is no, you don't need to, and often the people making this stuff up are on the other side and they're saying these things and then all of a sudden things are picked up which are completely wrong, right? So what I want to do is I've done a little piece. I don't know, I think people are aware of this, right? I have done shows about this Peter Sutherland. I'll show you what he looks like. There is a picture of him. There he is there. And there he is there as older, right? He's a Catholic. And there's a few people say, well, this one says, I believe Peter Sutherland is a Jew. Khazarian are known to assume the identity of someone else to do evil. So all I'm going to say is this, and there is a massive portfolio on this geezer. But what I'm going to do is just read out. So you don't have to tell lies about him. You can tell the truth, right? If you start telling lies, you distract from the truth. And what I'm about to tell you about this guy is the absolute truth, right? The Republic of Ireland are reaping what Peter Sutherland sowed. The rest of the world too. Peter Sutherland, an Irish figure whose legacy is steeped in controversy, left behind a trail of deeply troubling actions that have rightfully tarnished his reputation. Not that he had one in the first place. Hailing from Dublin, this self-styled globalist became a symbol of unchecked elitism, wielding his influence to push agendas that undermined national sovereignty and cultural identity, all while enriching himself and his powerful allies. His multifaceted career, spanning immigration policy, corporate greed at Goldman Sachs, dubious ties to the Vatican, and his role at the Fabian influenced London School of Economics, paints a picture of a man driven by ambition and a reckless disregard for the ordinary people he claimed to serve. Now, as I go through this, like I say, there's a massive. I've done shows about this guy before, right? Sutherland's most notorious contribution was his fervent advocacy for mass immigration, a policy he championed at the UN special as the UN special representative for international migration from 2006 to 2017. Far from a benign effort to address humanitarian needs, his rhetoric revealed a sinister intent to dismantle national homogeneity, particularly in Europe. In his 2012 testimony to the UK House of Lords, he infamously suggested that the EU should do its best to undermine the homogeneity of its member states, arguing that multiculturalism was inevitable to meet economic demands. This wasn't a call for compassion, but a calculated move to flood nations with migrants, eroding their cultural fabric under the guise of economic necessity. His brainchild, the Global Forum on Migration and Development, became a vehicle for this agenda, promoting unrestricted inflows that strained social services and fueled resentment among native populations. Yet Sutherland remained indifferent to the chaos he helped sow. His tenure as a non-executive chairman of Goldman Sachs International from 1995 to 2015, 20 years, further exposes his hypocrisy and greed. As a key figure in one of the world's most predatory financial institutions, Sutherland oversaw operations during the 2008 financial crisis. Remember when they sold all their gold? Who was advising? Gordon Brown. A debacle where Goldman Sachs' reckless practices contributed to global economic ruin. His reported earnings, including a rumoured $125 million from the 1999 flotation, highlight his personal enrichment at the expense of countless families devastated by the crash. Far from a neutral businessman, he leveraged his position to entrench corporate power, aligning with global elites who profited from the very policies he pushed, including the mass migration that depressed wages and destabilized labour markets. Sutherland's involvement with the Vatican adds another layer of disturbing irony. Appointed as an advisor on Vatican finances by Pope Benedict XVI in 2006, and later serving as president of the International Catholic Migration Commission. Don't forget the Jesuits are involved with what's going on at the moment. He cloaked his globalist schemes in a veneer of religious morality. Yet his advocacy for mass immigration clashed with the needs of local communities, including Catholic ones, who bore the brunt of his policies. Just have a look and see what's going on in Southern Ireland. His role as a consultor of the extraordinary section of the administration of the patrimony of the Apollotic See, right? Understand that is seriously something to do with the Jesuits, right? Suggests a troubling alliance between spiritual authority and corporate interests, raising questions about whether his faith was merely a tool to justify his agenda. His association with the London School of Economics, a bastion of Fabian socialism with its roots in gradualist collectivist ideology, further underscores his ideological leanings. As chairman from 2008 to 2015, Sutherland presided over a scandalous episode detailed in the 2011 Wolf Inquiry, big inquiry. I'll get into it, but it was to do with Gaddafi. Right? Remember, Gaddafi was providing arms for the IRA as well, and explosives. This unethical entanglement marked a lax oversight and potential plagiarism in Saif's PhD. So Saif al-Islam Gaddafi was Gaddafi's son, reflected Sunderland's willingness to compromise academic integrity for financial gain. His tenure at London School of Economics amplified his influence, using the institution's prestige to propagate his pro-migration, pro-globalization narratives, all while ignoring the social disintegration they cause. Now, I just want to make sure you're all aware of this, right? There was a massive inquiry from the Wolf Report in relation to the London School of Economics. They seriously overstepped the mark in a number of ways. They referred themselves for a public inquiry. The point I'm trying to make to you is this. Tony Blair's a Fabian. Tony Blair tried to protect Gaddafi. Gaddafi, again, is the person that was supplying arms, money, ammunition, explosives to the IRA. The IRA, Tony Blair also is tightly associated with Israel. In fact, he was actually going to marry an Israeli millionairess, right? You can go and research that. It looks like he was getting a divorce and he was going to marry her. So the connection, and then when he was with Cheryl, after he had finished being prime minister, he then went and became Catholic, right? So all of this stuff. Remember what I kept saying to you about it, again. I'm not suggesting that I want Islam in England. I don't, right? But the two religions that are closely related in terms of usury are the Catholic religion and Judaism, right? And this is a clash of the banking systems to a large extent, right? So one has got a different business model that doesn't involve usury, and the Jews and the Catholic religion want to promote usury because they're involved with the corporates and the banking, etc. But it makes sense that they want to destroy England, right? Because if we go back to our original ways, we wouldn't tolerate usury, right? So there's a lot to be said, and people don't know what's going on in the background with these people, right? But Sunderland's legacy is one of betrayal of his Irish roots, where he failed to address the economic fallout of his policies and betrayal of the global communities he claimed to uplift. His brainchild of mass immigration, far from a noble vision, was a reckless experiment that prioritised corporate profits and elite control over national stability. You're all seeing that now. This Irish opportunist, cloaked in the trappings of business, religion and academia, leaves behind a record of destruction that would serve as a warning against the dangers of unaccountable power. The Fabians rewrote the Irish constitution, removing all the common law ancient protections. They did that in 1937, right? And again, Ireland was fine as a, if you want to call it, as a dominion of England, right? They was independent. the same as these other colonies, which is in my other element. But I just want to make sure everyone gets that. The Irish are reaping what one of their own sowed. In the Emerald Isles of Ireland, a storm of unrest has been brewing, fueled by the very policy championed by one of the most infamous sons, Peter Sutherland. As riots erupt in towns like Ballymena and Coolock, and protests swell in Dublin, the Irish people are confronting a bitter harvest of mass immigration, a chaotic legacy sown by this globalist architect who prioritised corporate greed and ideological fervour over the well-being of his homeland. Sutherland, the self-proclaimed father of globalisation, which he said that, may have passed in 2018, but his insidious influence lingers, manifesting in the social disintegration and cultural erosion that now plagues Ireland. And that is what I wrote earlier. Just so that you know, and I'll put that out there. It's now had, let's have a quick look. Save that, send it out again, put that out there, copy the link if anyone wants to send that out. It's being well received by the looks of it. It's had about 900 reviews already. But does everyone understand? Everyone keeps blaming England. And what these people are actually doing in the background is they're trying to destroy England. At the heart of what they're trying to achieve is to destroy the common law, and they want to replace it with Roman law. They want England to be controlled again by the Roman Empire, right? And the people who controlled the Roman Empire were the Jews. Whether you like it or not, and I'm not saying all Jews are bad. I'm saying there's a Jewish mafia, and the Jewish mafia are bad, very bad. So let me just go back and see if there's anything else on there. See where the notifications are. Quite a few people are sending that out as we speak. So all I'm doing is so I replied to someone earlier on who had put that the first one I showed you. So I'm not having a pop at people. All I'm saying to you is that so that quote that I originally showed you wasn't exactly true, right? But there is so much information on this geezer that is true. When you create untruths and memes that are not true, so what happens is then people say, yeah, it's disinformation, and then all of a sudden people will stop. They don't even bother delving into this guy because they think it's misinformation. And if you've done a 5-minute search, you'll find out that the original quote that I showed you is wrong, right? Got a twain, you know, like the free man of the land. They use 5% of the truth and 95% of bullshit, right? Same thing. And when there is an absolute wealth of information that's far worse than anything they said there. But the thing is, people wouldn't do it. So there he is. That is Peter Sutherland. It's now dead, I believe. I think he was 78 when he died, or 76. But people don't really realise that there was someone up there that just said that's. I checked it. All you got to do is check the quote, and you'll see that he never said that. But you don't need to do things like that. You could, if you told the truth. That's why I wrote that whole thing, was to show people there was so much information on the geezer. You didn't have to tell lies. I mean, there's much more, by the way. You go and research Peter Sutherland. You could write a book about the geezer. Right? He's one of the baddest people out there. He's dead now, but he's one of the baddest people out there. What's this one? Also Scottish, right? When Scotland was Jewish, DNA evidence, archaeology, analysis of migrations, there was a lot of Jews went to Scotland. I can tell you that now. In fact, I did something on this show when I was talking about, was it British Telecom? And the head of British Telecom, who happened to be Scottish, just happened to be Jewish, and then was spending a lot of money down here doing all sorts of things that was basically attacking the English. and I think he was on the board of Celtic Football Club. So he's Jewish and on the board of Celtic Football Club. Just telling you, that's all. Right, so you sort of get to know what it is. But you do have to be careful with what you send out. Not majorly, but check. If someone's done a meme, I always check things before I send it out. Well, most of the time I check it. Unless I know it to be true. But if it looks too good to be true, a bit too blatant, I always check it. Even and all, I'm driving at the moment and listening in. Richard at Sudbury. Hello, son. Richard at Sudbury. The British Political Union, cult of traitors are beyond toxic. Let's have a quick look here. Yep, and it's run by Dark Personality in the main. They are Jews. Dark Personality is a very good way of describing these people. It is much better to describe all of the people that are ruling the planet in such a terrible way as Dark Personality, because they're all different religions. They're all different people. They're men and women. And Dark Personality means they've got no conscience whatsoever. And there's 4 types. You've got psychopath, Machiavellian, narcissist, and sadist, right? And they've all got the same traits and attributes. There's about 20 of them. And when you read through that, you understand who these people are, right? That's the one I wanted to talk about. This is pretty massive news. People don't realise how big this news is, right? David Davis MP, another one I don't particularly like. And the only reason is because he wasn't that good as a Brexit minister. In fact, there was things he should have done that he didn't. And we put a Brexit case in, and he should have backed down, right? And he didn't. That's one of the reasons why I don't like. I just think it's fanciful when these people say there's something and they're not, right? But I want you to understand this is a major scandal in which traders were made scapegoats for the sins which led to the final financial crisis, right? So whilst it's on here, I just want to make sure you're all aware of this, right? Fuck off, I ain't fucking registering with the BBC. Right, city traders have rate rigging convictions quashed, right? Now, these city traders were earning a fortune, right? 2 former city traders who were at the centre of one of the biggest scandals of financial crisis have had their convictions quashed following a 10-year fight. Tom Hayes and Carlo Palombo were jailed following trials for manipulating the interest rates used for loans between banks. Right? They were among 19 city traders convicted in the US and the UK for manipulating so-called LIBOR and Euribor interest rates, which are used to set borrowing costs on a range of loans, such as mortgages and car finance deals. Right? Following the ruling on Wednesday, Mr. Hayes said the conviction had destroyed his family and it felt surreal to be cleared. The Supreme Court's judgment represents a vindication, this is very rare that this happens, a vindication for the traders who have said for 10 years that they were victims of a series of miscarriages of justice, right? Absolutely agree. They argued they were wrongly prosecuted for what were normal commercial practices in order to appease public anger towards the banks over the financial crisis. Do you understand what they're saying there? So they was used as a scapegoat, right? Because the banks, basically the system had created the banking crisis, and they needed to blame someone for it, so they took a load of scapegoats, right? Who else you think was like that? How about Lucy Letby? Right, so the National Health Service is failing little tiny babies, incubated babies, premature babies. They need the most intensive care possible. They're failing in such a big way that these babies are needlessly dying, right? They've got incompetent doctors sticking needles where they shouldn't stick needles in tiny little babies because they don't know the anatomy of the baby, right? And they're looking it up on fucking Google. And this nurse said, well, this is wrong. And she was a very experienced nurse. So who did they use as the scapegoat? Lucy Letby, right? And the same with Verizon, was it? And the other bits and pieces, all these people that are failing the system. But anyway, after a decade-long battle to clear their names, the Supreme Court ruled that the criminal trials of Mr. Hayes and Mr. Palumbo were unfair and overturned their convictions. One day I'm hoping something like that's going to happen with me. Speaking outside court, Mr. Hayes said the decision has been a long time coming. After his cruel and pernicious sentence, he spent 5.5 years in jail. Okay, it destroyed my family. I missed my son's childhood, he said, adding that it also led to the end of my marriage. So for so long, I've been an international fugitive, and now I can move on with my life, or try to. Asked if he would seek compensation, he told the BBC's News World at One that he would seek further legal advice. No amount of money gives you back that time, I agree. And actually, no amount of money would make me feel better about that time, I agree. When you've had something like that happen to you, it ain't about money. It is absolutely not about money. He will be thinking, how the fuck could they do this? And if I was in front of him as a legal advisor, I'd say it was completely unconstitutional and this is what we need to do. Crazy experience, Mr. Boone had a crazy experience. I don't even know how I feel right now, he said. It's a mixture of relief and happiness. The Serious Fraud Office, which brought the original case against the traders, said it would not seek a retrial. That means they know they're in the wrong. Mr. Hayes and Mr. Palumbo were among the group of traders and brokers prosecuted for rigging interest rates in 9 criminal trials in London and New York. Mr. Hayes, a former trader at Swiss bank UBS, was the first banker jailed over the scandal in 2015. Originally sentenced to 15 years in prison, he reduced it to 11 years on appeal and was late released on January 2021. Mr. Palumbo was sentenced to 4 years in jail 2019 and was also released in 2021. What was LIBOR? LIBOR was a London interbank offered rate, was a key interest rate used to set borrowing costs for trillions of dollars worth of financial deals. It became the focus of allegations of wrongdoing following the financial crisis in 2018. It's a bit like, and I'm not just saying this, it's a bit like, is that going up and down on there or not? Is my screen gone poo-poo? Oh, share this tab instead. Was LIBOR, right? So there he is there, giving it large, that he's won, etc. But I just want to make sure everyone's aware of this. It's a bit like Corals, the bookmakers, Ladbrokes, the bookmakers, William Mills, the bookmakers. Let's think of an international bookmaker, Paddy Power, right? It's a bit like them all saying that they use, and I had a similar case, saying that they use, I don't know, Betfair to set their prices, but they are really, they're the market. So in banking, so in bookmaking, you are licensed to make the book. It's your prices that count, right? In banking, they are the market makers. That's why it's called a market. They're the market makers and they're giving prices out. That's why they've got to be very clever at what they're doing. It's very similar to bookmaking in some ways. In other words, you can arb different parts and nick a bit. And if you're good at what you're doing, you can make a lot of money. So it's very similar in that way to bookmaking, except they're talking about they're getting their prices and setting their prices on the market between them. Well, it was a standard thing that they all did. So if you like, it was a common law function. Although it wasn't statutory regulated, it was a common law function and everyone did it and it was allowed, right? And then he wound up getting a lump of bird out of it. And what was put forward, as far as I know, let me come off of that a sec. What was put forward was that there was 19 of them that was illegally setting rates as if it was some sort of conspiracy in the background, and it turns out it wasn't. It wasn't nothing like that. It had been projected by the SFO, in other words, crooked police officers at a very senior level. This is what they're doing, and then they made the evidence fit the crime, right? And then when it actually turns out what had happened, and now it's actually all come out, that's exactly what they did. They made the evidence fit the crime, not the crime, not look at the crime and then follow the evidence, because there was no evidence of a crime, because what they was doing wasn't criminal. It was just normal standard commercial practice. And that's where you have to be very careful. Did everyone understand that? Let's have a quick look and see. Good evening to everyone. So don't forget, you wonderful people, hit the like button. Smash that like button. Do me a favour and sharing is caring. And don't forget, I am going to be getting ready to move. I haven't moved a thing yet, and I've got literally, even my ex-wife went to me, "Have you done anything today?" I went, "No, I've just been reading." It's all coming at a bad time, really. Let's have a look. There's a bit delayed, isn't there, with this information coming back. So hit the like button. If you haven't hit it already, hit the like button. Share, because this is the only place you're going to get information on the Constitution and the way should things be, and keep going like that. So don't forget, there was someone who asked me at the event, all right? I did show it last night, but I will show it again. I'm sure if my elbow's going a bit coolish, I'll have to put a bit on it. So someone asked me, what was the book that I was talking about, right? So I'm going to try and show it on here. Hopefully it'll go into focus. Right, it's called Lewin, Lewin, on Trust, right? There it is. You can't really see that properly because of the way it is, but Lewin on Trust, right? There it is. This one was an old library copy. I can't remember how much it cost me. But a new one of these is about, I can't remember, it's about £2.5 grand. This was something, it was either £75 or £175, but it's Lewin on Trust. So you've got the barrister Linton Tucker, MA, Nicholas Lee Podvin, James Brightwell, Thomas Fletcher, Christopher Boyd, and they're the people who actually edited and wrote this book, Queen's Counsel, preface, and it tells you everything you want to know about trusts. There is, again, there is not much that's not in this book. If you want to know everything there is to know about trusts, everything is in here, right? I do not do trust law. The only reason I've got this is, one, because I knew that book when I see it was cheap, and two, that people ask me about trusts, and I just said this, and I don't do trust, but I will tell you what book you can get. And if you read through this, every part of what you want to do, it's got a table of cases in it, table of statutes that govern trusts, table of court rules and practice directions, which is something you definitely want to look at, table of statutory instruments that cover trusts, table of legislation of the Commonwealth, the British Islands and Hong Kong. That's when Hong Kong was still part of us. Table of European and international conventions, legislation and regulations, definition of a trust, classification of trusts, classification of equitable interest under trusts, requisites for creation of an express trust, who may be a settlor, who may be a trustee, who may be a beneficiary. So all this information is in there. What property may be made subject to a trust, so it tells you what you can put in a trust. Principal methods of constitution of express trusts. Introduction tells you everything about what you should be doing. Requirements for essential validity of an express trust, so it tells you how to make it valid. There is nothing in this book, right? Every single part of trust. This is the Bible of trusts. So if you want to know what that is, you literally go through it. Let me just go back to this one, 1001. Let's see if I can go to this. 1001, 1001, 1001, 1001, 1005, 1002. So don't forget, I don't get involved with all this, right? I should do really, because you can get money out of it. Definitions. I don't do it for money, but it's a way to earn a living. Definitions and descriptions. The typical case of a trust is one in which the legal owner of a property is constrained by a court of equity. So to deal with it is to give effect to the equitable rights of another. But there is no really satisfactory definition. Various definitions have been proposed, but they contain large, though incomplete, elements of mere description. The first is from the International Convention, and then it tells you what a trust is, assets, title, trustee, and then it goes through the various. There's a part there which it tells you enforceable beneficiaries, which is in there. It tells you what a beneficiary is. It tells you what trustees may be a beneficiary. Types of trust property, trust enforceable in equity, personal representatives, settled land trust act trustees. I mean, I should go through this really, because there's some people who would say, tell you what, Graham, get your head into that and we'll stick a load of money into a trust and buy a bit of land and tell everyone to fuck off. Probably about the best way of doing it. So all that is, just to make sure, because there was people at that event who said, right, started talking about trusts, etc. All I'm saying to you, I'm not suggesting to you there's people out there, but a trust lawyer will cost you a few quid, right? But if you read that book, you would understand it yourself. And if you're intelligent enough, and it don't take a lot of intelligence to read that book and work out what you should and shouldn't be doing, what you can do and can't do, etc. But if you spent 2 weeks reading it, you'd know. What's that? Dwelling on trusts. Yeah, no, it is. Right, let me spell it out for everyone just to get on. Lewin on trust. So LEWIN on trusts. So ONTURSTS. And that book is Sweet and Muscle. Trust, Wills and Probate Library. 19th edition. And there it is. Right, so now just to make sure everyone's got that. So if you wanted to know everything about trusts, you can go and buy that and read through it. And I can tell you now, you would all know far more than me about trusts, right? Because I don't get involved with them. But if people ask me, or if someone gets in a bit of thing, and I'll look at it and think, hang on, let's have a look at this. But you'll get different solicitors in particular and barristers that will absolutely specialise in it. Remember that one I spoke to, he cut most of what I said out because he didn't like what I was saying. That typical of a YouTuber, in particular group of people that I was talking to at the time, but he was a barrister. It was on there, but he was a copyright barrister. And I just said, the only reason you're getting involved with stuff now is because all of a sudden you realise that AI is going to take your living off you. And that's exactly what he's doing, because all they got to do is they put all of that into AI. I mean, carefully put every case in it, every bit, because it's only a narrow piece of law. It's a chancery court. It's what's known as an equity court. And they deal with wills, probate and trusts. That's all they deal with. And they don't have juries, right? It is proper administrative law. There are no juries. And originally, the Star Chamber was an equity court. Right, let's have a quick look. Any questions on that? Money is property too, so the taxes put on us are illegal. Farmers need to put their farms in trust to avoid the government robbery. I've already said to people in the farming community, they was protected by copyhold rights. And because they're all British, they won't listen to me. They're listening to their British barristers and British solicitors. And my son went to Oxford and Cambridge and knows all about these laws. Copyhold rights were repealed in 1925. You say, yeah, but they lied to you. And repeal is not abolished. So just remember that. Own nothing, control everything. Mickey, I can't hear you. Who's that? I can now laugh out loud. What's going on there? Yeah. So don't forget, sharing is caring. Hit the like button. Let's see if we've gone over the 100 mark. We are now at 111 likes. 111. Keep going out there. Hit the like button. Don't forget, sharing is caring. The only people putting this out there is you. And we're getting as much. So once this little bit of case is over, Monday night. So Friday's really important. Royal Courts of Justice. Try and get there for 10 a.m. because you don't want to be coming in and out of a court, etc. Just slip in there if you can. It's really important that the judges, and there's two judges this time. So anyone who was there before, there was one judge. Now there's two judges. This is a full-on hearing where four barristers are trying to get this case thrown out before it goes to trial. And what I'm arguing is they can't do that for various reasons. Again, I'm now just trying to get into the zone of that and think about what I'm saying. I'm going to take some of my books with me. I don't know whether to take a rucksack with me up London or take my little case, which will be highly embarrassing me walking around the place with a case. But I just want to make sure I've got all that in there because I don't want to be able to say, well, I don't know where it come from, don't know where that come from. I've got this, I've got that. I've got all the information I need, but it's very difficult to try and get it across in there. They've all got access to thousands of pounds. What is the definition mandate of mandatory in law? What is the definition of mandate or mandatory in law? If you're talking about sentencing, mandatory means there's no discretion. That's a direct. Mandatory means if it's mandated, if it is mandatory, there is no discretion for a judge. So just to give you an example, the Criminal Justice Act 1988, Section 134, torture, if found guilty on indictment, anyone, including judges, it is a mandatory life sentence. There is no discretion. So they can't say to you, we'll give you X or I'll give you community service, blah, 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 any of that. There's no discretion on it. Same as murder. There's no discretion. It is a non-discretionary life sentence. Whereas if you looked at manslaughter, that's a discretionary life sentence. DD will be able to, with you in spirit and hope, justice will be done for this serious crime. I need as many people to turn up on Friday as possible. Well behaved, like it was last time. No nodding or shaking heads in the background because that pisses off the judges. But just listen to what's going on because they want to see what's gone on. That's it. Anything else going on there? 21. Graham, jurors use a sack barrow to book for box make. Give Graham a follow on X. Yep, well done. Right, any other questions? There is still loads going on in the background. It looks like more and more information is coming out this week and next week about Obama. And it is looking more and more like the conversations that are happening in the background with President Trump and the King are to do with this, right? That's my opinion. It is to do with what's going on out there. So I just want people to know that. Who's the best looking, Juicy or Lucy? I ain't got a clue. Right, Al. Tracy, check out Graham's video. Are you on 412 channel, DD? When? Not tonight. I'll be on 412's channel first Wednesday of the month, whichever date that is. I've got to go and have a look for that. So the first Monday of the month. So I'm moving, I think, I'm moving next Wednesday. So a week today I'm moving. Hopefully I'll get everything out of here. And then by the 4th I should be set up. That reminds me, I've got to pay to have my dish removed. He's coming Saturday to do that, just to let you know. Any other news, any other things, but don't forget what I think is going on in the background there. It was a really great, I think I promoted it last night, a great video, by the way, which was to do with, I'm sure I showed it to you. Let's see if it's on there. Yeah, I did. I showed it to you. If everyone wants to go and have a look at this, right? I won't do it on that one. I'll do it on this one. Because they actually started telling you more or less exactly what I've said for years and years and years and years. But go on there, and you should even say to her, why don't you get Graham Moore on your show, because he says what you say. Because it would be good to get an Englishman there, because they're still conflating English with British, which they shouldn't be. And we will explain the difference. Is Rusty an English Bull Terrier? No, Rusty looks like, if I remember rightly, Rusty looks like a staff. Let's have a look. English Constitution Party. Put that out there. Anything else? Anyone want me to ask me any questions? Tomorrow night I'm going to be live again, and then obviously after tomorrow, that's it. I'm in the court, and either Friday night or sometime next week we should know the result. Did the judges fill you with confidence that they will uphold the law in a fair way? I've never got confidence in anyone in upholding the law in this country anymore. But I'm hoping that we get 2 fair judges. What we're looking for, by the way, this isn't going to decide the case. This is just to get to trial. And then what they're trying to do is kick it out. Is there a part 3 to the Freedom Festival podcast on YouTube? Juicy and Lucy can answer that one. Juicy and Lucy, is there a part 3 to the Freedom Festival podcast on YouTube? There's the question to Juicy and Lucy. And the answer is there will be. Let's have a quick look and see, has anyone got anything on? Grasshopper, how are you doing? Question, I wanted to set up a local ECP. How would I go about it? You set up what your local ECP is. It's quite easy to set up. Contact Tracy and Juicy and Lucy and who's the other person? Ray. You're better off doing it as your main area, right? So in other words, the county that you live in or the shire that you live in, and then you get an email address, and then we put it in your group, and then we start adding to them. That's going to be in the English Constitution Society and the English Constitution Party, and you get people coming over to you, and it goes from there. Nice. I like part 2. Juicy and Lucy, Westworld, Tiddly Poo. Right. That's it then. We say, please rest up. You're going to be amazing. Let's hope I am. I don't know what they're going to do. Juicy and Lucy and a 6-foot plumber. Juicy is a 6-foot plumber. Is he? Juicy's a 6-foot plumber. Good stuff. That's it. I'm going to piss off. I'm going to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. I'm going to say don't forget sharing is caring. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We will go back to normal programming after this little thing's kicked off. Hopefully it goes to trial and that will fucking set the fucking pigeon cat amongst the pigeons. If it goes to trial, there'll be a lot more happening. And if it goes to trial, they could avoid the election, and then Runcorn and Helsby will be told, go back to your marks and start again, and we'll be doing everything again in up there, and it'll be quite funny because hopefully we'd have had a bit of publicity and people were saying, well, I'm going to vote for them because they just turned everything on his head, right? And hopefully our leaflets will be delivered. We'll get some publicity out of it and see what people do. That's it. Good night, God bless. Don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. I'll be in Devon this time next week, hopefully. That's my first day, that is. And then I've got to organise everything else, shut everything off. I've got to do all my memory things like taking pictures of the gas meter and the electric meter and making sure they've got everything and then switching everything off and abandon ship. Take 2. Good night, everyone. Thanks, everyone. And don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. I will be back tomorrow evening and I'm going to be finding there's some other stuff I want to go through. So I'll be going through that and then we'll just see what happens. Hopefully, I'll do my very best in the court. It is going to be nerve-wracking. Hopefully, I can remember most of what I've got to remember and talk through the points that I've got to talk through. But I'm sure I'll be able to do it. But there you go. Someone's got to stand up for us. And I drew the short straw. That's it. Good night. Let me go back to my main screen. And we'll hit that one.